So, hello and welcome. My name is Steve Pugh. This is something called the Growth Strategy Podcast, which I try and do every week, where basically I introduce you to interesting people that can either help you with your business or career. And I purposely kind of pick cool people that actually, hopefully, you can relate to. So that some podcasts just go for the big guns, the Bill Gateses, the Richard Bransons, etc. But 99.9% of people are not at that level. And actually, they actually want to hear from people that they can relate to, that they can hear their story and actually kind of dig into their career path. And then another big side of what we kind of look at as well is people's journey, so that people that might watch this at 16, 17, 20, 30, 40 can almost learn from other people and think, well, actually, if they can do it and they're from my hometown, maybe I can do it too. So we'll dig a little bit into my guest's kind of backstory as well. So I'm going to introduce you to Chris in a second. And Chris was actually a recommendation from one of my other friends, Danica, that we might kind of talk about. He's got a really fascinating story to tell. If you've got any questions, drop them in the chat. They will pop up in front of me. And yeah, hopefully if you join us for the next kind of 30, 40 minutes, it should be some, worth a listen. So there we go. So Chris, you're now live.
Hi, everyone.
Would you basically like to give a very quick introduction just to who you are and where you're from?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Chris Rabbitt, and no, that's not a joke. That is my real name. Anyone that knows me will know that my standard opening after that is my dad is called Peter, and that's not a joke either. That is his real name. So yeah, Peter Rabbitt. I'm originally from Liverpool and lived all over the UK. A bit of a mongrel, really, but
I've got to ask whereabouts.
In Mughal.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I'm from Mughal. I grew up in Lydia. I went to Maricourt High School. Were you married?
Old are you?
I'm 37.
Right, so I'm 45, so I'm a bit older than you, but all my family went to Maricourt. I didn't. I actually went to St Mary's in Crosby.
Oh, you're posh.
Oh, yeah, I don't think so. But I'm trying to think, the closest in age to you will be my cousin Andrew, who is now 43, so still quite a lot older than you. But yeah, Maricourt, I know it really well.
What are the chances? And I genuinely didn't know that before. I just asked. They're from the same small town. Unbelievable.
We used to live on a road called Clent Avenue near the shopping centre in Liverpool.
You're not going to believe this.
No, you didn't live on Clent Avenue.
No, I didn't, but my friends did. We lived on Winstay. So, there's a park by this is very niche, by the way. So there's a park that's on Clent, Clent Gardens, which is just around the corner. Yeah. So my house, or my mum's house, backs onto that. So we used to play football on that. Isn't this is the weirdest rogue interview that's gone on a tangent that I never expected. See, now we're kindred spirits. That it's meaningless to everyone else. But wow, small world.
Yes, hi, my name's Chris Rabbitt, and I used to live around the corner from Steve.
Isn't that surreal? Yeah. I won't ask you which number.
I know exactly where you were talking about.
Fair enough. So what do you do now?
So I've been self-employed for years and years and years, but my business had a hand grenade stuck under it at the start of the end of the first quarter last year when lockdown happened. I was in the process of enjoying what should have been the best year I'd ever had. I was full for the whole year. My former business, I used to be a sort of portfolio sales director, the best way to describe me. I was a sort of gun for hire, working with, at that point, about 9 separate businesses doing different bits and pieces, but essentially helping them get to market. So how do I make more money doing what I'm doing, basically? How do I get more sales? How do I price more effectively? How do I close more business? All that sort of stuff. And that just was detonated on the 13th of March. 80% of my business stopped at that point. And then by now, so middle of May, the rest of it had gone. And so I was terrified. Didn't know what I was going to do, didn't know how long this was all going to last. Wasn't sure. So I started doing what I've always done, which is going out networking. And I mainly reverted to type, as I think most people did. And I was on the phone, how's everyone going? Just talking to anyone that would talk to me, trying to drum up work. And actually, my section of the business world or the economy, it just vanished. People were not spending money. So I was, trying to work out what to do. signing up for jobs with Amazon, like what's going on? And actually then I ran into my now business partner, Simon, on what was then the precursor to MEEOW, which is the business that we run together now, called a Zoom a Day. The Zoom a Day keeps the bailiffs away, I think was Simon's original sort of strap line. And this meeting is almost the best sort of example of what happens on MEEOW, or what can happen on MEEOW, is that very day, I didn't know who I was going to be talking to other than Simon. And that very day, he decided, for all sorts of different reasons, mainly being told by lots and lots of people how brilliant online networking was and how much money people were saving, he started to think that day about maybe turning it into a business. And so we've known each other for years. I jumped on this thing. He started telling us all about it. And I'm like, hold on a minute. This is great. I like this. And so because I was his pal, I said, right, well, Simon, if you're thinking of turning it into a business, don't go anywhere. I'll sense check this for you. And so Simon filled me in on what his thoughts were. And I'm like, this is going to be so much bigger than that. We've got to do this, and we've got to do this, and we've got to do this, and we've got to build our own platform. We've got to forget about Zoom. Sorry, Zoom, you are marvelous and we love you. But we need to forget about Zoom. We need to get on our own platform. We need to own the space that we're in. And this is going to be massive. It's going to be a proper community. And we just then took that, and really, because we were too stupid to know that we shouldn't do it, we went and did it anyway. Because essentially, I'm very fond of saying we're just two middle-aged dickheads with an idea. Excuse the language. But that's essentially it, is that we don't fit the sort of stereotype of tech startup founders. We're not 22 and coding geniuses.
The fact that you've got a jacket on kind of proves that.
Yeah, but I've got a jacket on because this shirt looks terrible on its own.
I still can't believe you grew up in Kent. It's absolutely blown my mind that. And by the way, Matthew Wood, yes, I am 37, 1983. Well, I'm 38 in June, if you want to check. But it's, no, fascinating. Okay, well, what I'm going to do now, if you're happy to, I like to break it all the way back to, it's funny that you went to St. Mary's, so you're a little bit posh. But what you were like at school, and then kind of your journey through, just because for one, it's really interesting to look at character traits and then how that developed into stuff. Because the other good thing that now that you've said that, as some of my friends from Kirby would say, that we're both Plazzy Scousers, and that we've kind of moved away, kind of half lost the accent. But I think it's funny that I think the character traits that you learn when you have to learn to get by, I'll put it that way, in certain places, it's very useful in later life. That, you know, at times, you know, when you kind of grow up and you're doing your thing, you know, maybe sometimes you wish you grew up somewhere posher or nicer or with more money or whichever. But actually those skill sets to, you know, get through school and stuff. So even though Maricourt was run by nuns, we had still someone in my year that got expelled for dealing on ecstasy. I got shot. What else did we have? It was just, it wasn't, and actually after we left, there was some guy, was he shot with a shotgun outside the front gates? That's not I remember seeing on the Mughal Echo or whatever it was. But anyway, but the point is, but it was that kind of environment teaches a set of skills that you often don't get at university or whatever. And it's, in some ways, I think it's kind of priceless. So what were you like at school?
My school career is a bit of a game of two halves, really. I was an excruciatingly good and well-behaved child, from being in short pants until I sort of got to sort of second or third, or no, probably got into high school, and then I didn't go off the rails. It's certainly not that exciting, but I don't know, for whatever reason, wasn't particularly enjoying school. Well, you know, without being too arrogant about it, I was always quite bright. Did reasonably well. But yeah, it sort of turned into a bit of a, I don't know, not even a class clown, just slightly naughtier than I was before, I suppose. Still nothing particularly exciting. And then we moved from Liverpool over to Leeds when I was 12, 13. And so completely the wrong age for me to be doing that. and had all the problems of being a Scouser in a school in Leeds, trying to fit in. And so did all the things you shouldn't do from an educational career perspective, to try and fit in. And so, spent my school life, I don't know, trying to entertain the people around me, whatever else. Did okay in exams and whatever else, but left. I don't think you could ever say I fulfilled my potential at school, because it would be a bloody lie.
You know what the good thing is that your potential doesn't stop or end at school. And I think sometimes people seem to either forget that, or they certainly don't teach that. It's all about, you have to do GCSEs and you have to get straight A's, otherwise your world ends at 17, or at uni, or at A levels, or whatever. And it's totally not true. At any point in your life or your career, you can think, actually, you know what, I'm going to make a change. And but I think they don't teach that enough. I think that, it's always, it has to be qualifications, and I don't think that's always fair.
One of the things that Simon and I are really, really passionate about, and one of the things that we're trying to support with MEEOW, is young entrepreneurship, and by the sort of route to that, better careers advice at school. Because I had the fortune of going to a great school. I went to Leeds Grammar School in Leeds, brilliant school, absolutely phenomenal education, but I'll be honest, careers advice was absolutely appalling. It was dreadful. In fact, it was non-existent, because I think it was assumed that everyone would just go off and become lawyers, doctors, or accountants. There was nothing. And Simon, my business partner, feels exactly the same way, is that there has to be a better explanation that life is not defined the moment you finish your A-level, or the minute you finish your degree. I don't think I actually decided what I wanted to do until I was about 35. Genuinely.
Yeah.
And I've done all sorts of things since. And I don't know if that's a nice segue into my early career. But
see, you'd almost think you'd had the questions in advance and you've just rolled this through. So what was your first job? How did you kind of get started?
So I always wanted to be a fast jet pilot.
Me too, except my eyesight wasn't good enough. No, I did. So basically I wanted to be in the RAF, but my eyesight's not great. Like, it's not terrible, it's not great. And then also I've got asthma, which developed as a teenager. So I couldn't do the RAF thing. And then actually the other thing on my MaryCore job support thing was Undertaker. It came up on the little questionnaire thing you did. And then, no joke, what part of one of our careers talks that we had was someone came in from Walton Prison and basically told us, don't go to prison because this is what happens. And that was our careers talk. And it's just, I love it. But the thing is, now with YouTube and stuff, kids have the internet in a way that we didn't. So for instance, if you're into graphic design, I'm just going to pick anything, or if you're into music, you can actually kind of learn about it outside of what other people teach you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the resource out there is incredible. If you have the nous to actually want to be able to access it. And I think that's brilliant. But I always want to say, I wanted to be a fast jet pilot, but then eyesight no good. And actually I'm 6'5" and was probably a bit taller when I was younger. And so they measure the length of your thigh. So there's no way I could do it, even without the eyesight or anything else, because I'd rip my legs off at the knee if I had to eject. So that was out of the game for me. So I was a bit rudderless. So I went to university, did an English degree, and came out in 1998 and started a career as a recruitment consultant. And I'll just duck when people
one of my customers is a recruitment consultant, and it's funny that when I don't think a lot of people understand it. What type of recruitment was it? Was it perms or industrial?
I started off doing temps, construction temps. So really, dirty, hairy recruitment.
It's a tough gig. It's a tougher gig than people think, because actually upstairs in this building is one of my customers, and it's when you fill a shift, but then likewise, for whatever reason, people just don't turn up. And it is a tough gig. And one of the things that actually, because I've got this office, which is quite nice, but actually I like to go and sit upstairs with the guys, just because you feel the energy and the passion, and they work harder than 99% of the people that I know. And I kind of vibe off it. And actually, if you can cut it, I know people joke about this, but if you can actually cut it in that gig, and I've kind of seen behind the curtain now for like a year, it's people have got a work ethic if they can kind of keep going.
I don't think there's anything. Well, then again, because I've never experienced anything else. But as you get older, you see people come from different starting points. I don't think anything gives you as much rigor and discipline and knowledge that if you don't put stuff in, you don't get anything out. It's as simple as that. That ability or that knowledge that you are as successful as you want to be is really important. But the industry, I think, lost its way very quickly after I joined. I got fed up with the industry. I loved the job, and I moved into slightly more, elevated and interesting work. Ended up working with mid-cap private equity-backed businesses, hiring senior people, and did lots of work in the food and drink industry. And it was great fun. I got to see things where your food is made that would either make you, smile with delight or would make your hair curl. For the things that you put in your mouth, I've seen some of it made, and it's not nice.
It's not that type of podcast for things that you put in your mouth, but we'll kind of leave it there. But I've been there on Food Factories. People joke actually that I have an OnlyFans account just because I spend a fortune on video equipment. I wish I did, but no, I'm not lying. You know your strengths, and that isn't that. That's not my thing. And then how did you you went through your career, and then at what point did you start your first business?
So I was in and out of recruitment for 10 or 12 years, and it got to the point where I completely fallen out of love with the industry. Still enjoyed the job, completely fell out of love with the industry, and was casting around for something to do. And I arrived at taking on a catering franchise in a golf club, with the view to, because I couldn't just take on a catering franchise in a golf club. I was looking at doing one and then lily pad it across a number of clubs. And so I finished work on a Friday evening in Manchester in recruitment, and took off my suit. And on the Monday morning, I went into Leeds Golf Club and did a 100-person banquet dinner.
Wow.
Pretty much on my own. I'm
guessing you can cook then.
I can cook, as you can probably tell. I enjoy a bit of food. I've always been a great cook, but and there's a big difference between being a great cook and a good chef. Good chefs are not always great cooks, and great cooks are very rarely good chefs. And I was a great cook and didn't know how to be a chef, but I decided to go and start a catering business, which is very similar to lots of things that I've done. And so I went working in golf clubs, and I'll be honest with you, recruitment was easier. There's a certain type of person that inhabits golf clubs, and most of them will attract words that I can't say on a family-friendly podcast. But I was not a particular fan of the denizens of golf clubs. Gentlemen with lots of money who have extremely expensive taste, but extremely long arms and deep pockets, I think is the best way to describe it. And it was extremely frustrating. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the vast majority of the time I spent there. It was an enormous learning curve for me in terms of running a business, doing something different, pushing myself way beyond what I thought I could do. And I did that for 4 years.
Wow.
And ended up running franchises in 2 different golf clubs. And actually, it was never going to be the business that I wanted it to be, because there's not enough profit to make the risk of having 2 or more worthwhile.
Yeah.
I think if there was a business model that worked for those things, you'd see people like Compass and Eurest and whoever else in there already. And it just isn't. You can make a really good living out of one, but you can't make a business out of more. And so in my usual back to front fashion, I closed down that business and took a job in a 2-rosette gastropub in North Yorkshire and learned to be a chef for a year. So I actually took a step back, actually went to work in someone else's kitchen and learned to be a chef and had a wonderful time.
It
Didn't make any
sounds,
money.
I was going to say, it sounds like you're not someone that's not afraid to follow their passions.
No, not at all. Not at all. It was an itch that I needed to scratch, because there's a big, and this is where I go back to saying great cooks are very rarely good chefs, and good chefs are very rarely great cooks. The business of being a chef is not about all the time, not about creating good recipes, because most of those have already been done. The skill in being a chef is being able to do the same thing over and over and over again, and it to look exactly the same, and to taste good, and most importantly, to do it fast, and to consistently crank it out at the same speed, at the same standard, all night long until you're done. Mm. I tell you what, there's lots of stuff to be to not recommend that job to anybody, because it's bloody hard work. It's hot, it's sweaty, it's dirty, it's smelly, it's all the things that you could probably imagine. But it is the most mindful existence you can ever have. You live entirely in the moment, other than when you're doing your prep in the morning, but you live entirely in the moment. And once service is finished, it's done. There's nothing you can do about it. There's pointless worrying about it. It's done. The food has been eaten and will be somewhere in the waste disposal system in the middle of the following day. So it doesn't matter. You just pick up and crack on and get on with the next one. Great grounding. I loved it.
So how did you go from there to kind of both launching where you are now? And if you can give people like a quick 2-minute summary on what MEEOW is, then we'll start to talk about it. Is that cool?
Absolutely. So I went back into corporate life after that and was the sales director of a training business, selling stuff for free, which was the hardest sales job I've ever had. So we were basically broking government money, loads of fun, lots of exposure to all sorts of good stuff, but really, really tough. And we then, myself and my wife, had our children, and I made the conscious decision to step back from that sort of 80-hour-a-week out and about everywhere, because I was away 3 nights a week most of the time. And I started a game for myself in a sort of portfolio role, and that's what I chose to do. We took a big drop in income, a big uplift in time, so I could be at home and be around when my kids were little. And I loved that, but it was a massive lifestyle choice, if you like. And so that's how I met Simon, through networking my way around the West Yorkshire market mainly. He and I are both professional networkers. Mm-hmm. All my business came from word of mouth. All my business came from recommendation. Simon was the same. And it was that sort of commitment to networking that put us together at the start of last year with an idea of, hey, we're online. There's nothing we can do to change that. We were fundamentally convinced that the world was not going to go back to normal. It might think it wants to, but the elastic limit had been reached, and so we were never going to go all the way back. So MEEOW was created to solve the problem of how to network better online. Mm-hmm. Because what we saw when lockdown started was everyone who ran networking events needed to carry on running networking events. So the way that they did it was just pick up their networking event and plonk it into a Zoom room. So instead of there being 2 of us and we can talk to each other, there were 20 of us or 50 of us, or God forbid, sometimes early doors in lockdown, 200 people in a Zoom event. And I'm sorry, but you're just a spectator.
Yeah.
You might be able to jump up and say your 60 seconds, but no one's listening to you. I've seen people doing the ironing, feeding the kids, playing on the phone, whatever. And they're just not listening. They're just there to tick a box because they feel that they have to be. Yeah. And so we created MEEOW to bring the sort of humanity and the intimacy back into that networking experience, which is why there's only ever a maximum of 4 people in a MEEOW at any one time.
So how in the one-liner, because I don't think we've covered it yet, So
Sorry.
MEEOW is it's a social networking platform where you meet
Mhm.
random up to 4 people per call. Is that how it works?
That's exactly right. MEEOW is an online networking community where you can meet 3 new people every time you log on. So the system is designed to promote novelty. So if we can get away with it, you won't be in the same meeting with the same person twice intentionally. You can choose to meet them in the platform,
Mm-hmm.
and that functionality is coming really soon. You can choose to continue your relationship once you've had that call and you connect within the platform and all the rest of it. But the system will always choose novelty over repetition wherever possible.
And it's
So
24 hours a day?
it is, but I am going to sort of qualify that by saying
Providing
if
as
you
users.
try and network at 3 o'clock this morning or tomorrow morning, I cannot guarantee there'll be anyone there to meet. Not yet.
So is it almost, I don't know if you play computer games, but it's like a matchmaking server. So it sees who else is out there and it kind of puts you into groups.
Exactly that. We based our sort of holding tank. I don't know if you ever played Fortnite
I'm
or
more a Call of Duty man, but I know
Call of
Fortnite.
Duty, man. There you go. So you play, what is it?
Warzone.
Warfare, is it?
Warzone.
Warzone. So you play Warzone and you all get chucked into like a holding tank at the start and then put into groups which sort of match your ability. And that's exactly the same sort of theory as we have. So at the start of every hour, everyone's put into a holding area. The AI does its stuff, chews up the information that we hold about you and that you've given us, and we spit out the best matches. So in multiples of 4. And that's
cool.
the way it is. So we don't do, you have the opportunity to determine where, who, and how you want to network. But we don't give people enough of an opportunity to self-censor.
Yeah.
Because if we give too much choice, and we've just seen this recently, if we give too much choice, people will choose nothing. And it's really, really strange. But they'll also censor themselves away from opportunities because people believe they know the people they need to talk to.
Yeah.
And the fact is you don't.
But prime example, so you met Danica, I believe, on your platform?
Yeah.
So Danica used to work at the client that I do work for still.
Right.
And then when she set up on her own as a copywriter, she's very good, by the way. We were talking about lots of different stuff. And then she's like, "Oh yeah, these guys that you should talk to, it'd be really interesting." I was like, "Okay, yeah." So we spoke a little bit, and then by chance we grew up on the street next to each other.
There you go.
But it's unexpected and it's kind of just serendipity. But again, I think that's so true with just careers and life in general, that you kind of just, as long as you morally kind of do your best and you just keep going, you never know what's going to happen. And it seems touch and wood to kind of work out for the best. And even if, things have, you have a bit of a shocker at some point, it's just redirection to, what you maybe should be doing.
I completely agree. I think there is always a way forward as long as you keep your legs driving. That's an old rugby analogy. I'm an old rugby player. If you keep pushing, you'll find a way through. I think if either Simon or myself weren't as resilient as we are, and I think we're resilient not because we have this innate strength or this inspirational anything, is that just we've spent our entire careers getting kicked in the face by various different circumstances or mistakes or whatever else. You put your head up and someone will smack it, and that's been us basically for years and years and years. And so you just got to keep going.
So the message to the young kids: if you're happy to keep getting kicked in the face, be an entrepreneur. But it's true, 100% true. The amount of things that happen and you're like, for fuck's sake, and it's just keep going. And I think that's almost part of the resilience. Do you think coming from a semi-working class background gives you more grit and determination? Or is that just a complete bias?
I don't know. I firmly believe my dad's an electrical fitter was an electrical fitter on the docks. There's very little more working class you can have than that. But he was entrepreneurial all the way from when I was as early as I can remember. We had our own business as a family, and that's followed through until very late in his career when he went back into employment. But No, I don't think being working class does give you any more grit. I think it
Okay.
gives you an understanding that life is hard.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't think it does give you any more innate resilience or toughness or anything else, because you might be able to take a punch better because that's the way you came from. But I think the mental resilience is the thing that's really, really important. And I don't think adversity in that sort of sense gives you any more mental toughness. Some of the most incredibly tough mentally people I know, you'd think they come straight off the set of Downton Abbey. It's absolutely crazy, super marvelous, absolutely marvelous, super. And you'd think they've wanted for nothing but have had a really hard trot and kept on, getting up and keeping going. So,
Good. I must, but that's part of the reason why I like doing these, because I like to just bounce ideas off people, and it's just
yeah,
because it does. It's, a wise man listens, and it's that kind of thing of just, it helps mold and shape your opinions on different things, and it's really interesting to kind of know that, because in the classic Oprah Winfrey thing, you don't know what you don't know. So for instance, although I have interacted with, and in some cases still do work with, some people from the Downton Abbey kind of background, it's not that common, I'll be honest. I live in the Northeast now. It is what it is. But then
well, Gossip Park, dear boy.
but to be honest, that probably in itself has given me a biased outlook. And I worked on T-Side for the last 12 years, and it's almost where you've almost made me reassess maybe some of the assumptions that I kind of had, which are probably wrong. But nobody's perfect, and it's no, really interesting. So when you first got the idea for the business, I'm going to start with the name first. Is it true that startups with funky names get valued more?
That's what we hoped. I'll be honest.
It's distinctive. I like it.
The name. I'm to stick it straight. The name has nothing to do with cats. Although anyone that likes cats can, by all means, have the assumption that it does. No, MEEOW is a portmanteau of meet now.
Ah.
When I was presented with this by Simon as a fait accompli, as in, here's the branding, I went, absolutely not. I hate that. To be fair, I hate the name. I love the branding. I hate the name. What on earth were you thinking calling it MEEOW? Of course, Simon is very persuasive and extremely passionate about the stuff. He's like, no. What you don't understand is, you're telling me that we're going to take this global. And I'm like, yes, we are. And he's like, well, we need a word that's non-language specific, that is a noise word that everyone can get behind, and no one needs to understand what it means. So I went, all right, whatever. And I didn't like it, but I love it now. So,
did Simon do your branding? Did you do it in-house?
Simon is an extremely talented branding guy. And he is responsible for the complete look and feel of MEEOW.
Because it's very good. And I'm critical, but it's really, really good. It looks like we spent an absolute fortune on it.
It's cost us the princely sum of sweet corn.
But it...
And to be fair, he's done an amazing job. And I believe firmly that any sort of profile that we've had, and the way we've been taken seriously by investors, has in no small part been down to what we look like.
Yeah.
Because it is bloody marvelous.
But it's true, because when you work with different businesses, and I can see actually on your table, I think you've got the Roadmap MBA next to you, but you're always looking at what do you tackle first in terms of, small SMEs or freelancers or whichever. They've all got different challenges, but your marketing and your branding has to be good enough for the level that you're aiming at. And, yours it's really, really, really good. And I mean that sincerely, that I thought you would have spent 100 grand on it kind of thing. I'm in the process of getting mine redone now, because everything you've seen or everyone else has seen, I've done myself. It's like a 6 out of 10, but I also have ambitions to go international kind of thing. So I'm paying a lot of money, and yours is, it's really, really good. So I wanted to ask you about it, because actually I think it's something that one of the guys that I went to uni with, because I went to uni in Sheffield, so I know the same kind of corridor as you do. But his dad used to own a chain of clothes stores in the Middle East, but they used to sell Western clothes in the Middle East. But this was a long time ago. And he had the saying where it's expensive to be cheap, where basically, yeah, you might save a lot of money and try and go really cheap on your branding or your business cards or whichever, but then it's gonna hurt you in the long run, because when on first perception, if you look cheap, nobody's going to buy and trust into what you're doing. So out of interest then, did you raise money to like start the business?
Simon and I bootstrapped it from our own funds. So, we put, there's no secret in the fact we started out by putting 25 grand each in.
Okay.
Which at the time was a bum-clenchingly significant amount of money for me, because my business had just detonated.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'd done is I converted a load of investments into cash to get us through last year, and having the conversation with the missus about, hey, I'm going to put 25 grand into this thing that we don't know whether, we don't know when it's going to make money. We don't know how it's going to work, but we're really excited about it. And actually, I've got an amazing wife, and she said, yeah, go for it.
Wow.
You believe it? I'm like, yeah, I really do. And she's like, well, go for it.
But that's so important to have a supportive partner that lets you do it. But you know what I'm talking about. As where if you see it with different groups of friends, that you will also get people that kind of hold you back. Oh, are you sure it's a good idea? Just because they're not risk, or they haven't got the idea, they haven't got the passion, they'll try and put you off. And you see that all the time, and it's very, very common. And then with yourselves, so what's the dream for the business?
So there's a couple of things. Is that we are, while this is our absolute passion and our love, and it genuinely is, we're not particularly sentimental about it. So we set it up for a reason, which is to create as much value as possible and then realize that. But for us, there's all sorts of different milestones towards what success looks like, and actually none of them are financially orientated. We believe that if we hit those marks, then everything else will follow as a natural consequence.
Awesome.
So for us, the absolute apotheosis of what success looks like for us is that if you are a MEEOWist, you can get on the platform anywhere in the world at any time of day or night and click the MEEOW Now button, which doesn't exist yet because the community isn't big enough to sustain that sort of on-demand thing. But click that button and be in a meeting with 3 people within 30 seconds. And if we can do that, we will consider that mission accomplished.
Wow.
That's the business. We'll have the usership that we want. We'll have the reach that we want. We'll have the arms around the world sort of coverage that we want, and the recognition, so people are in there and doing it and thinking to do that. But yeah, that for us is success. That's what success looks like for us. And we believe if we keep pointing towards that as our sort of North Star, then everything else will follow in behind. So the whole thing now is growing that user base.
Yeah, same. But what's interesting is that on first glance, and when I've been on your website and stuff, it looks like you've raised, you've done your first seed round, you've raised £1 million. It does. It looks and feels like that, which is great. And then I'm guessing, is that part of the dream where you get it to a point where you then raise more money and help you accelerate?
Absolutely. So we've just closed our first round.
Oh, wow.
Pre-seed round back at the start of April, so just before the end of the tax year. So we did our SEIS round then, and we've got 3 lead investors in that group, along with a small group of committed MEEOWists, if you like, who probably all need to be committed for putting their money in. But God love them, they're the ones that have been with us right from the start, who really believed and actually put their money where their mouth was at a fairly cheeky valuation. And we love those people more, almost as much as our families. They are proper, wonderful people. And then so we got this other triumvirate in more recently, who took a bigger slice, a bigger stake. And that's given us enough to work on the sort of profile raising, the first bit of marketing, a bit more functionality development. We're able to pay ourselves a little bit of money out of the business now, which is nice.
Yeah.
But we're looking at raising again in September. And at that point, if the user base is of the right sort of level, we're looking at a much bigger raise at that point. So probably something about £500,000.
Wow.
Which will give us enough oomph then for a couple of years to really, push through the functionality developments, the platform scale, bring some dev resource in-house, just build out the business really into one where it's a lot more self-sustaining than it is now.
No, fascinating.
Because we outsource everything at the moment, which is how we got to know Danica. We really try and use MEEOwists to help us build the business.
It makes sense. And actually, I saw a talk from one of the guys that was like employee number 5 at Fiverr. And it's that kind of thing of just the more you can help people get value from the platform and actually just have something different that's good. And that's the big thing. I think there's so much crap out there that actually when people actually have something that's actually good, it's exciting to see. It's nice because you see loads of people that when you go to, okay, it hasn't been to one in person, but like the business conferencey type, startup type things. And it used to always be one of my pet peeves where some people would be like, oh yes, we're going to raise this money, then we're going to raise this money. And almost there was a disregard, but for the fact that it was someone's actual money, it was almost like that's the right of a founder to spend other people's money on stuff they want. And I think it's nice when you see people with real business experience actually do stuff, which is awesome.
That change of mindset, that sort of shift has been one of the things that both Simon and I have found extremely difficult, is not to sort of disregard the fundamentals of having a business, but to put them to one side, because at this moment in time, according to our investors, and actually the last call I had with them, I said to Chris, our lead investor, I said, I've been listening to you tell me to concentrate on user base rather than revenue. I've been listening to you tell me that for 6 weeks now. And I've only heard it today. Because it's so ingrained in me. We set this business up to generate revenue because we didn't have the sort of vision that we would be raising money to accelerate. We set it up to generate revenue, and we've had to take a step back from that, where it will still generate revenue, but this allows us to grow faster. But without that external support, we wouldn't be able to do it. But our mindset is always on, right, okay, we might have had this money, but we have to treat it like it's our own. We have no choice. We're not built that way. We can't be cavalier with the money that we've been entrusted. And I really, really believe that we've been entrusted with it. This is, most of the people who invested, in fact, our 3 investors could probably afford to lose the money they've invested with us many, many times over. They're wealthy guys. They've made their money. They know what they're doing. Our smaller investors absolutely can't.
Yeah.
But regardless of what their positions are, it's a trust thing for me. We've got to get the maximum amount of value out of every pound we spend.
I think that's,
and if we don't, we're just not doing it right as far as I'm concerned.
But it's the mindset as well, the fact that any cash that you have is a tool to be invested to then put into the machine to do more with. That's a mindset shift that entrepreneurs hopefully have. That, for instance, my wife, God love her, she's an employment solicitor, but as an employee, it's a different mindset that if I was to spend 20 grand on my branding, it's 20,000 of revenue from the business going back into the business. It's not money in my pocket. There's a different thing. And it's almost like I partly do this because I actually just enjoy it. But I see it like the world's biggest game, that it's you have these tokens like on Fortnite and you get to reinvest and buy better stuff and then do more and then do more. And it's, I'm guessing you enjoy what you do.
I absolutely love it. I have never worked as hard. I've never earned as little. I've never had so much fun. I've never been as close to somebody who I've been working with. I've never met such an amazing gang of people, and at this point, we need to shout out to a really, really special community who were with us almost right from the start, which is our host group. And they're making a sort of big reforming the band, coming back onto MEEOW in quite a big way this week. To help bring the new people into the platform, to help them get more out of it. But these people came on board with us for no reason other than they jumped on one of these calls and loved it and wanted to be a part of it. So they were knocking on the door saying, can we help? Can we do? Can I host some of these? Do you want to do more? Yes.
Mhm.
Well, yes.
I think
So we ended up with 30 of these people who were just amazing. They gave up their time. Sorry.
No, I'm just, I like to bounce off people, and it's the kind of thing that there's an inherent time delay, so it's always a little bit different. But I think it's great, because what I was going to say is that, do you have almost some sort of referral incentive scheme, not financial, but just in terms of like badges or recognition or whichever? Because when you said before about how the people that have been there right from the start, one of the best things, you know, when you're trying to build your brand and your audience, is maybe show them a bit more behind the curtain, give them access to stuff that other people don't have. And it's all these things that don't actually cost you anything, but they make people feel special and feel wanted, because inherently that's all people want, kind of thing.
And that's what our community is there to do. Fundamentally, is that this wasn't built for big corporates to send armies of people into. Although if they'd like to, you can call me on this number. This whole community is there to help support and give a place to go for people who don't have that place to go. So people like you, who you work on your own. You know, you have your own company in your business, and your missus doesn't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Mine's exactly the same. She's a primary school teacher. She has no idea. Her parents worked for local government all their lives. Her dad worked for the NHS. She has no idea about enterprise or anything like that. And that's not a failing of hers. It's just a different outlook. So if I want to talk to someone about what's going on in my business, I need to go find somewhere else to do that. And it's a lonely place. And what MEEOW does is give you the opportunity to do all of that whenever you want to.
Awesome.
So jump on, go, God, I'm having this problem with this. And I need someone's opinion. Doesn't matter who it is, I need someone's opinion. And you'll get it. And you won't just get an opinion, you'll get some advice, you'll get an arm around the shoulder, you'll get a sort of virtual cuddle. And if you make that connection and you keep doing that, then people go, oh, actually, yeah, I remember that Steve does that, or Simon does that, or Chris does that. And people start getting referred. We had our guy come in today, into the office today, who does our merch. So we've got some hoodies coming, some mugs coming. Nice. Don't worry, Steve, we'll send you one. Hoodies coming, mugs coming. We've got some stickers for the windows, bits and pieces coming through. And he, in his MEEOWs, has sorted out his pension. He had an issue with his pension. Found someone to sort out that issue with his pension. He's found someone to do ISO 27000 certification for his business. He's had referrals come through from 3 different industry sectors within MEEOW. All of which came not from him going, hi, and I want to sell this to you. It's, hi, my name's Mick, and I'm a really nice guy. Can I help you? Can I listen to you? Can I just be there and be a part of what's going on?
Love it.
And that's the way it works.
No, cool. I'm very conscious that we are on 4:49, so it's we've been talking for a while. It's these Scousers, you can't trust them.
All that Clint, have a new chat, you see. We should have just nipped that in the front.
I'll ask you now, because I'll ask my mum later. What's your mum called?
My mum, God rest her soul, was called Sheila Rabbitt.
Sheila Rabbitt. I will ask my mum, and I'll let you know if they knew each other, because it's mums always know each other. That's the fun.
Did you go to St Greg's as a primary
Yes,
school?
I did.
Yeah, so did I. Don't worry, I'm there.
Was Mr. Lloyd your headmaster?
No, it wasn't. My headmistress was Mrs. Sinnott.
You've lost me now.
Very old by the time you were there. But, yeah.
Oh, cool. No, and honestly, I've been really, really impressed with everything. And it's great to genuinely ask about people's stories, but because I am passionate about it, but actually I'm on the similar journey. You know, for me, it's all about user base and stuff as well. It's fascinating. And the fact that we've just got the hometown connection is even better. So there's a few questions that I ask everyone, and this gets its own kind of section on YouTube and stuff. And in some ways it's great to kind of give back, but likewise, I also think it's the best bit. If you were happy to, what's the best piece of advice you've ever had?
Go back to the story I was saying before. The best piece of advice I've ever had is the one that we didn't listen to.
Okay.
Because if we listened to the people who were giving us advice, we shouldn't ever have done this. Because we were told that we couldn't do it. Or we weren't, sorry, that's not true. We weren't told that we could. We didn't fit the stereotype. We weren't of tech startup founders. It just wasn't done. So if we listen to the advice that says, well, no, this isn't you, this isn't your thing, this is for 20-somethings with computing degrees. If we'd listened to that advice, we just wouldn't have done it. We were too stupid to pay attention to that. So we just went out and did it anyway.
Awesome.
And that for me, if we'd have listened to the naysayers, we never would have got this started. And I'm so glad we didn't, because this has just been an amazing journey, and it still is. It's just so much fun.
It's funny though, isn't it? Because I almost, throughout my life and career and school and stuff, there was always teachers that were like, oh, don't do this, you're not good enough to do that. And then even when I was, I started to tell people I was going to do the roadmap and actually do what I saw as a real world business education course, I had one chap down in Cambridge who politely said, who the fuck do you think you are to do something like this? And I was like, I am actually quite good at what I do. But the point was that and then there are people that will put you down, they'll criticize you, they'll try and drag you back. And it's like, well, if I try my best, because you didn't go to Cubs and Scouts, did you? I was in 3rd Sefton Easters around the corner.
I was actually in the 2nd Sefton West. You were the one up by the canal on Liverpool Road, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some friends of mine went there, but I was at 2nd Sefton West, the Sea Scouts in Litherland. But there we go. Different thing.
This is the world's worst podcast. But anyway, but my point is,
you need to watch mine with Johnny Ross, because he went to Merchant Taylors and now lives 200 yards from me in Leeds. That's another corker. People are stalking me, I'm sure. But there we go.
But my point is that when one of the things that was drilled into you, in Scouts and stuff, was just do your best. It doesn't matter if you try and fail. And that was one of the big things for me, is that I would be happily try my very best and fail and then get a job, than kind of half-arse it or not give my absolute everything, Saturday, Sundays, everything. And I think you'd need that kind of drive and passion to do it.
Yeah.
The next question before we kind of start to wrap up, if you were to give advice to your younger self, and you can pick any age, whichever, what would it be?
Oh my God. I was a 24-carat dickhead in my 20s. I wasn't a shit. I wasn't a bad, nasty person, but I was a total dickhead. And for me, I think I probably would have had no less fun, but would have had much more pleasure had I just dialed that back a bit. I was a typical high-achieving recruitment consultant arsehole, and I fit the stereotype beautifully. I was living in London, I was making money, I was having lots of fun, and I was an arse. And I really, if I could go back, and like I say, I wouldn't ever have had less fun, but I would just quite enjoy being a bit less of a dick.
I'm going to have to tick the box on YouTube that says not suitable for kids.
Absolutely. You've done more swearing than me today. And that is unusual.
Oh, God. Is there anything you would like to talk about or plug before you go? Please plug MEEOW and try and get people to sign up.
Yes, please. For me, this is all about the community, and the community just gets better and better and better the more people that are in it. Please go to the website, www.meow, that's meow.co. We're going on to the .com soon. There's a free trial at the moment. There will be a cardless checkout very soon. So if you want to wait a little while, please do. But you won't be automatically charged anyway. Just come and try it. For me, everyone that tries it pretty much enjoys it. Just come and have a try and see what you think. Simon and I are on there all the time. We've got our hosts on. There's lots and lots of people to welcome you in. So.
Cool. Well, this is one of the most unexpected and enjoyable ones I've done in a long time. I genuinely appreciate your time, Chris. It's been a pleasure to kind of meet. At some point, we'll actually meet in person as well. We're not that far away. And no, genuinely, best of luck with it. Please can stay in touch. I will probably be signing up and I'll check it out and I'll get a feel for it. And yeah, I'd love to kind of check in at some point as well to see how you're getting on. And it's this kind of honest journey that hopefully at some point when this goes onto YouTube and stuff, there'll be hundreds, if not thousands of people over time that have ambitions to do a startup, do something, or for instance, they've been in a career for a long time and due to COVID, it's changed or it's gone badly or whichever. And I think we've both had almost reset points where you've started from scratch again, you know what I mean? And it's having the faith to actually know people that have been there, done it, kept going. As you say, just keep pushing through and hopefully touch someone, it'll be all right. Cool. Well, I appreciate your time.
No worries.
And yeah, thanks again and stay in touch.
Thank you, Steve. It's been
No
a
worries.
real pleasure.
You
Thanks for
too.
having me on.
Cheers, mate. Bye bye.